All right, it's 4:45, rather, and we can open the meeting. I assume they're recording?
Yeah.
Okay, the meeting's being recorded by Channel 58, or Area 58. So we, first thing will be a move to go into executive session pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 21, regarding Teamsters Local 653, library and clerical persons pursuant to Chapter 38, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position, and I so say it will. So that'll be my motion. Do we have a second?
Second that?
Tom?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
I vote yes also. We'll be back into open session as soon as we're done. So I'm gonna just jump ahead a little bit because we have Mr. Schleif here, and I know he's interested in our new business
Mike, how are you?
review request to hire. So,
Should we do the pledge of allegiance?
oh geez, I always forget that. I'm sorry. Okay, you want me in the pledge of allegiance?
Yeah, go take
Hats
it.
off. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think I would remember that.
You're new around here.
I appreciate that, John. I go back to work after.
I'm sure you do. Okay, so we have, I know at our last meeting, we had a policy to say that we had to approve any new hires. And so we do have two here. So let's just jump right over to the beach attendant, because I know that's why you're here. So you want to talk to us about that?
One of the reasons, after a lot of years and struggling, you guys have been in some of the meetings during the summertime. It's consuming and we're struggling to get somebody down there. But if you cut it out, we're just starting to get a heartbeat on parks. And to cut out that position at this point. I mean, because we couldn't get a position last year, we were able to use some of the funds and have a police officer down in the high end when they could get one. So I think we had like 2 details, and then one was for free because they were doing training for the new guy, and we got the fire department out there on the lake one day. Of course, nobody's out there that Saturday, so. But we're trying to get somebody permanent there. We want to get out the ad as soon as possible. Try to work with everything we can to get somebody in there to fill that position this year.
Okay, so what do we need to do? Did we either have to vote to?
Vote to authorize the
Authorize.
recruitment process to begin.
Just one more thing is that there is funding up through the end of June, currently from the last town meeting, so even if we get turned down at town meeting, again, we ask for more approval. We've got enough to get us through June. So if
Can you remind us, like, so the beach attendant will be there how many days a week?
two weekends or a holiday.
Okay,
10 to 6, weather permitting.
okay. Weekends and holidays, 10 to 6.
I think there's only 2 holidays, you got Memorial Day, Labor Day.
The 4th of July.
4th of July.
So will they, they're the ones that will be enforcing the parking?
Yes.
That kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay,
Somebody down there making sure,
okay.
if anybody comes in, they can apply for it and get a $20 parking permit. Or they get a ticket if nobody's down there, so I don't know.
Okay. All right, any discussion from the board?
Just curious, Mike, are you holding the salary the same as last year?
Yeah, I don't think it's moved, it was 1782, I think it was.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly what it was.
And-
That's, our illustrious over there, and he said it hadn't changed, so.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It has, because that was the non-union
Yep.
that didn't get the any sort of COLA increase. So if there's one for this year, it would be effective July 1st. But at this point, it's we did it. It's as like a Parks and Recreation supervisor or something.
In ballpark, how many hours a week, Cody, you think?
About 16.
Okay.
And then you have the holidays.
Yep.
It's relatively short money. You're talking $4,000 to $5,000 for the whole season if every single shift is filled. It's, probably doesn't happen that you get someone to fill every single shift.
And just for the new guy, remind me on the approval process, if that's something that we would entertain, does it go to town meeting for a vote? Or is this just?
No, the
unilaterally entertained?
This is only because we have the hiring freeze in
Yep.
effect that it comes to the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
Typically, we would, the money's there, the position already exists in our bylaw, so we would just post the position, go through the normal recruitment process. This is an extra step because we have the hiring freeze, so you're reviewing each position individually.
So if approved, then we allocate another 4 to 5,000 for fiscal.
No additional money.
For next year though, after June,
Oh, yeah.
after June 30.
Yeah, but that's already in the proposed budget.
Okay, it's already the proposed budget. So in the event that we couldn't find someone to fill the spot, that money would just go unused.
Right.
Yeah.
Do we have any leads on candidates who might be interested?
We're gonna try it again, try to get the juniors going into seniors and try to put it out in other places other than the town website or down at the billboard. I don't know if it went out in the billboard before.
We're gonna do some recruitment on the town side, and also, help the parks with some of the interview process and things like that. Just so, because it's a position of the town of Halifax, so we want to be represented in a positive manner.
Yeah, I think one of the angles I'm trying to research on how to move it could help in there, and I noticed that Buzz Around Town had a good article where it's a good recommendation for college that you're able to do this. I think that would help motivate getting somebody down there. That's a good reference for college bound kids. Et cetera, et cetera. So I'm trying to come up with something I can maybe put on Buzz Around Town or what they would like to see down in the school and how they're looking at stuff.
So for the last 2 years, we've had a lot of meetings on beach issues, Last year, we got the police, I don't know if the police, whoever did it, we increased the parking fine. Make sure the police were down there as much as they could.
Yep.
And one of the things that has been talked about a lot in terms of kind of controlling the crowds is to have somebody there checking stickers and make sure that people that are parking there are supposed to be there. So this has really been a hot topic. I wouldn't call it a critical hire, but I would say that it may make a difference as far as how the summer goes this year as opposed to it has the last 2 years, so.
Especially as police staffing, overtime, the new law that went into effect a couple of years ago, we lost a lot of our specials, so finding people even on the police. And when they're getting calls down there on this, that, and the other thing, it takes away from their regular duties. It's probably the least expensive way to try to.
I mean, honestly, I tried to watch it last summer, and the majority of time, the parking lot was pretty well empty. The beach was generally empty, especially during the week. The lake was generally calm. There are times when it is crazy. There are, and especially like the holiday, like Memorial Day will be that way. 4th of July last year, because it was a nice day, and a lot of the places around here are closed. And the neighbors around there, legitimately, are
hypersensitive.
Yeah, they're very upset with the amount of people there, with the traffic there, some of which is not. Some of that is like, it's a public beach, so we expect people to be there. But on the other hand, it is also their neighborhood and their backyard. So I think it's a legitimate compromise to say, well, we have rules, let's enforce the rules. We're going to put the signs up like we talked about last year. I know the last December's town meeting with that petition article to change the bylaws relating to lake usage. I mean, that hasn't been approved yet, but,
No, we haven't heard anything from the Attorney General or.
That's a whole, that's a whole different kettle of fish. This is a heck of a lot less complicated than that.
Would that come out before the summer, you think? Okay.
I don't think they have any requirement as to how long to take.
The AG has a requirement. I anticipate a couple days before that deadline, we'll get a request for extension, and we really don't have an option to say no.
Don't forget, the AG's mad at us.
Yeah, probably doesn't help.
Yeah, we're on the list.
We are trying to implement a sticker system this year, so residents can get beach stickers. It just, it comes down to us purchasing the stickers and also the manpower of overseeing it. I think that's kind of the biggest challenge. The buying the physical stickers isn't really that expensive in the grand scheme of things. We can actually put it on our online system too, which I think would be great for people. They could get them right there. We can mail them right out. It just comes down to manpower in the offices. Who's going to do this? And so we're still trying to work through that aspect of it. But the goal would be to have beach sticker if you have a recycling sticker, that's fine. If not, you need a beach sticker you place on the car, and then that way there, the attendant there knows this car is good, go in, or no, this car isn't good, you can't come in. It also would be easier for police too, because then it's just a violation of you have a sticker or not, rather than sitting there trying to run license plates, and it really isn't a super effective model. So we're trying to work through that. It's just some of the logistics behind the
Yeah.
scene.
This is one thing we can do for the neighbors down there that, you know, for all the complaining we got and the hearings we had and issues that were going on and on and on, that this is one thing that I do think we can do that will hopefully calm it down some. I don't know if it'll solve the problem, but it'll calm it down some.
Is Cody working on that sticker thing? Let me know how you need any,
We'll let you know, we should be,
if you need anything.
we should be good to go.
Can I ask a random question? Not to jinx us. We've had great water quality the last couple of years. What happens to this position if, say, July, the beaches are closed for 2 months, 3 months because of bacteria?
Well, the water would be closed, right? They
Yeah.
could still, people could still hang out on the beach
You
if
just
they
want to
wanted.
have crowds, it's not like, you know, if it's raining and pouring, you
Yeah.
gotta work.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It's,
We do want to offer some stability, you know, to someone,
Yep.
if you have someone taking the job,
Yep.
we want to offer them some
Sure.
stability. Now, if it's pouring and we say, hey, it's your choice if you want to come in or not, that's different. But I do think it's, to be fair, we,
Yeah.
you know, we gotta, if we offer someone a position with an average of 16 hours a week,
Yeah.
we can't call them 4 weeks in a row and say,
So
oh,
you're not
sorry,
coming
we hired you,
Right.
but we don't need you anymore.
And the second thing is too, we're entertaining hiring too, so they can work off of each other. So we can have a consistency of somebody down there that we didn't get one, but if we're gonna get one, somebody halfway through the season, yeah, you know? So we're gonna try to team it where they can work back and forth.
I don't know that we've ever actually closed the beach, have we? I think,
Yeah, there's been closed signs for the algae blooms.
but you can't go on the beach? You can't go in the water?
Like, you can go, yeah, straight, yeah. but
So the parking
They
lot
just changed the sign, there's a
Yeah.
Halifax, big sign, Halifax, beach open.
Yeah.
And then they, when they got closed, I guess they flipped it
Flip
around.
on, yeah.
And they got the same thing over on Home Street, and I think that's the only other place.
Yeah. Let's just hope we have good water again this year.
Any more discussion on this? So I would move that we approve the hiring of a beach attendant. Again, we've a lot of experience with this, so.
I'll second it.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's unanimous, so
I appreciate it.
keep it up, man.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you for doing it. That's, we'll save us all a headache.
Well, I'm gonna get a replacement for Thomas.
Oh, is he out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Looking for volunteers, you know. Thank you all, have a good day.
Thanks,
All
Mike.
right, we'll go back up to the top, and then we'll come back to the library director. So when the warrants and commitments?
I move to affirm approval of the following warrants and commitments. Vendor warrant number 75 for $112,094.63. Ambulance commitments February 3rd, 2025 through February 9, 2025 for $36,385.40. And ambulance commitments February 10, 2025 through February 16, 2025 for $62,508.40.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
I move to approve the following warrants and commitments. Payroll warrant number 76 for $471,413.71. Vendor warrant number 77 for $79,879.58. And withholding warrant number 78 for $158,992.34.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Didn't we have another ambulance commitment, or we just did that?
That's the abatements.
Oh, the abatements, okay, all right. Okay. Approval of the Selectmen's minutes, January 21st. Everybody had a chance to read them over? Okay. Somebody will make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the selectmen meeting minutes from January 21st, 2025.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. That brings us to ambulance abatements. I'll save Mike's voice. I'll move that we abate ambulance costs of, for January 2025, $145,025.76 as requested by the fire department.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, now, library director.
Again, so this is right along the lines of the beach parking attendant there with, I think I mentioned Jean Gallant is retiring on May 12th. So we have started the recruitment for a library director. The hiring freeze is as of March 1st. We certainly won't have somebody in place as of March 1st, but this is a department head level, high level position. We need someone to oversee the day-to-day operations of the library. So I would request that the board allow us to continue forward with the recruitment for the library director.
Where do we stand on the recruitment? Did we started recruiting already?
We have, yeah. So I met with the library trustees a couple weeks ago. We came up with a plan that they approved. They approved the posting and everything. We posted that on February 10th, I believe it was. Those are due back on March 10th, I believe. We have a screening committee put together of 2 library trustees, 2 friends of the library, and myself. We will meet, review applications, hopefully bring some people in for interviews, and then recommend a finalist, or if there are multiple finalists, to the trustees for interview and final job offer.
Okay. Any discussion from the board? No. All right, I'll make a motion that we authorize the hiring of the library director.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Opt-in to Plymouth County Mosquito.
Yeah, this is an annual requirement where we've historically always been part of Plymouth County Mosquito Control. They do all of the mosquito control for us. They offer tons of other services to us as well. They not only do the spraying, but they also will conduct, like if there's a buildup of tires and things like that, they'll actually come and get them at no cost.
Nice.
So if we were to not opt in, we would have to come up with our own mosquito control plan and also fund all of our own mosquito control. So I'd recommend that we continue. Plymouth County Mosquito Control does an excellent job. So it's just an annual requirement that we opt in.
I agree 100%. Mosquitoes are a real problem around here. So any discussion from the board?
No.
All right, I would move that we opt in to the Plymouth County Mosquito Control for fiscal year '26.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Recommendations from the bylaw committee?
So council's still working on those, so we're gonna have to push that off to the next meeting.
Okay.
What we will have to do is, as soon as we receive them from council, I am going to have to send them to the planning board for them to get their public hearing scheduled, and then you can review them at your next meeting, and if you have changes, we can send those to the planning board. But we're on a pretty tight timeline here, where we have to get them to the planning board by March 1st. So we'll have you review them at the next meeting. Planning board will have their public hearing, then we'll move forward.
So I think we've gotten them before. I think everybody's had a chance to see the last draft, and I'm on that committee, and we had a meeting the other night. The changes are, I would say, not consequential. There are some changes in terms of wording that the building commissioner pointed out, but there's no real big substantial change, other than we have to take out the MBTA part of it, so.
Yeah.
Okay, free cash.
Yeah, so we received notification that our free cash was certified by the Department of Revenue. So this is great news. I think it's pretty healthy this year. We had a little bit of a decrease last year, which we were anticipating, but in your packet you can see I included some historical data on the free cash figures. This year the free cash amount is $1,544,732. About $40,000 of that is that opioid money you hear about. So we don't have quite that full amount available, but we're around $1.5 million. Which is pretty good. You can see we're at 5.37% of our percentage of the budget, which is healthy. We want to try to stay around that 5% figure. The other 2 things that I wanted to note of were our retained earnings. So we have two enterprise funds for the most part, our water enterprise fund and our solid waste enterprise fund. Those operate almost like a business where they're user fees. So the fees of the users cover the cost of the services. When we had the pay-as-you-throw program a couple of years ago, the program was failing miserably, to be quite frank. We were running deficits almost every year, dipping into our retained earnings, which is basically your savings account. So we weren't covering our annual costs within just our regular operating budget. What you can see from this is we've had a complete turnaround of that. And it's the highest retained earnings number ever in the history of this program at $307,500. So that's where we need to be heading in that direction, because we need to cover costs. Like, we're looking at a new recycling truck. That's almost $300,000 right there. So previously we weren't going to be able to fund those things. And you may have heard me mention, if that trend continued, we were going to have to abolish the program, likely at the end of this contract with All State Waste. But this is very positive. This is good. It also shows that the fees that we have put in place are right where they should be. Right, they're covering our annual costs and also allowing us to cover our capital costs, such as that. So yeah, kudos to kind of everyone involved in that. That's a complete turnaround of that program that was kind of on its last leg, and now it's kind of has some life in it. And then our water retained earnings was pretty healthy once again, a little over $1 million in retained earnings there, which is pretty good considering we had appropriated $500,000 towards the water project last year, and also another $25,000 for the purchase of a excavator backhoe. So we're replenishing that at a good amount, and we hope to be able to put some more money towards the water project this year. And kudos to our accounting team, to treasurer, collector, Linda McCarthy and Lindsay Martinelli in the accounting, and Eric and Bill Rowe from Eric Kinchef for kind of getting this wrapped up and submitted and certified.
So we had a discussion a couple of weeks ago about trying to get better communication into the public. And I don't know how to do this, maybe you have a good idea, but I think this type of information really needs to be in the public eye more than we have it.
Sure.
Only, and I'm not critically, I just meant that you're always hearing discussion about, oh, you know, we're going to have cutbacks, or we're not going to have enough money to fund this, that, or the other thing. But sometimes this positive stuff, it has to come out also. And say, okay, well, there is a certain amount of funds. It may not be enough to do what you want to do, but at least it's a positive, and it's an improvement from where we were. So I would like to figure out how to do that effectively, whether it's, I don't know, Cody's Corner again, or perhaps it's the website. Maybe our website needs to have this with a little bit, you know, a little bit of an attention grabber in it there. Because again, I do think we need to communicate with the public better. We can always do it better, and these things don't get heard enough, I don't think.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, well, that's a great idea. We can certainly do a post on the website with what our figures were, and also maybe an explanation of what these mean, right? Because I do think it's important. This is you know, your free cash and your retained earnings are kind of a picture of your overall financial health, right? That we're financially management is going well, because when you have strong cases like this, it tells you, free cash, for example, tells you basically two things. One is that we are good with our revenue estimates, right? Because when we put our budget together, we're estimating. We don't know what our revenues are actually going to be. But we look at trends analysis, and we look at forecasting, and we say, okay, this is where we think we're going to be within some reason. Things always come up, so we always want to be a little bit conservative. One of the approaches that we take, and it's very common, is we take 90% of our prior year actuals, and that's what we use for our next year. And that insulates us pretty well from risk. So that's that. But then the other side of it is, it means that our departments are being cognizant of their spending, and they're not spending every single penny in their operating budget, because that gets turned back, and that's basically what free cash is made up of. And then anything from last year in free cash that we didn't spend, which was, you know, $100,000, a couple $100,000. So we can certainly do that. And again, this is primarily reserved for capital appropriation for capital items, because it's one time. You saw that historical chart of the money, right? It varies because it all depends on revenues and expenses. But it allows us to be able to invest in our capital items and hopefully not push off things down the road that are going to end up costing even more.
That's excellent. Very good. Okay, any other questions on that? No. Brockton electric credits?
Yes, this is another very good cost savings measure that we've been able to implement. So I had mentioned previously, myself and Kathy Stanley were working with the city of Brockton to purchase some energy credits from them. They ultimately oversubscribed to some of their purchase power agreements and had an excess in credits. So what we've been able to do is myself, Kathy, and a consultant that the city of Brockton hired was we reviewed all of Halifax's municipal energy usage, so town hall, COA, library, schools, everything, and looked at where we predict that for the rest of the year. And what this agreement is us buying basically the rest of our electricity for the remainder of the fiscal year at a 20% reduction in cost.
That's awesome.
So you see that the typical cost we would anticipate would be about $280,000 for the remainder of the fiscal year, and we'll buy that up to that amount at a 20% reduction. So that's, if we end up spending that full amount, that's, close to $60,000 in savings.
That's fantastic.
We're already in discussions of doing the same thing next year. And our goal next year would be buy the whole year, and we look to save $120,000.
Okay. Do you need us to do anything?
I do. I need you to approve the memorandum of agreement with the city of Brockton for the electricity credits
All right, I'll make that motion.
and allow me to sign on your behalf.
And allow Cody to sign it.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Good work. Thank
More
you.
good news. Put that out there with the trash info.
Yeah, no, kudos to Kathy Stanley. She is absolutely phenomenal. All of these energy things that have, significantly saved us a lot of money. I certainly play a role in, but Kathy has taken this on. We would have probably never made the connection with Brockton if it weren't for Kathy, because you wouldn't know about it. And she's just been great along the way. Not only in the analysis portion, because it's looking at our electricity. It's not just saying this is what our bill is. We had to dig into what usage is, and it was extensive, and she was able to bring in a consultant to do that work for us that the city of Brockton paid for, that we didn't have to pay for that analysis. So it just, kudos to her. She is phenomenal.
Straight off in the water.
All right, no appointment scheduled. Under old business, town administrators update, staffing and town operations.
So we're just continuing on with the budget. Our public budget meetings with the finance committee began last night, where we had the library, highway department, and police departments in to present their budgets. What we're doing this year is very similar to what we implemented last year, where we're not having every single department in. We're only having the larger departments in before the finance committee. We've already met with all of our departments. We've kind of worked through budgets, and at this point is presenting what we feel are quite polished requests to the finance committee. Next week we have the fire department coming in, and then I also will run through most of the other line items in the budget that fall under those smaller departments and general government departments. So we'll continue that process. Tomorrow night we have a capital planning committee meeting. Thursday night we have a capital planning committee meeting. That is the first one of this budget cycle. Aligns perfectly with our free cash notification, so we know kind of what we can spend. Departments have all submitted their capital requests for the upcoming fiscal year. So we anticipate a couple of those meetings, and just working through the school budget. Silver Lake was having a meeting tonight to hopefully vote their budget for fiscal 26. So once we have that figure, we can start to work through what an override budget would actually look like, and what our non-override budget, balanced budget would look like. And so the plan is to have a joint meeting with you and the finance committee again on March 25th to review those, and then you would make the decision at that point to move forward with an override, and at that point you would decide the amount of the override. And then of course we have the final warrant will be on your meeting for April 11th for your final approval, and we'll get that out to print shortly thereafter.
Warrant closes when?
March 1st.
Oh, so.
Saturday.
So this weekend.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Yeah. Seems early.
That's actually what our bylaw says.
Yeah.
It's not a.
No, it's just coming up quick. It's time.
So we would just vote,
The warrant closes March 11th.
so the decision to put an override on the ballot or not, and if so, what amount, would happen on the night of March 25th?
I would anticipate that, yes.
And that's still up in the air whether it's on the ballot or not, and then the amount to which we would recommend it to
Absolutely.
be on the ballot.
It's our
So
decision.
make sure I understand that correctly.
So we're now, as soon as I get that number from Silver Lake, I am going to develop a second budget, basically. We have our regular budget where we're going to be making significant cuts across the board to try to stay balanced. And then we will present a budget of what it would look like without making the cuts and what that figure is within reason, right? The Finance Committee is going to give some direction and say, okay, maybe we're going to recommend that the school cut X amount or whatever that is. And then both of those will be presented to you on the 25th of the joint meeting, and you can make your decision at that point. And that way because we have to finalize it through the warrant, and then on the 11th, you'll have your basically final warrant. If you want to make some small changes, we can do that at that point. But we kind of want an idea of what the warrant's going to look like, so it can be all completed for the 11th.
Got it.
And once we have those in place, Cody, were we talking, I don't know if I made this up, were we talking about having some kind of public forum budget discussions with the town just to try to educate folks before they get to town meeting?
Yeah, so once
Explainer?
budgets have been voted,
Yeah.
we're working to try to do a couple of public workshops in probably, April, of what those budgets are. We just, excuse me, we are holding off because we don't know what the budget
Budget is,
gonna look
right,
like.
right.
So once we have recommended budget or budgets, we will do that. We'll make a couple of video recordings. I'm going to create an in-depth presentation of all of our revenues and how that process is, and go through that for potentially both budgets, and then allow people to come in and ask questions,
Yeah.
and hopefully just prepare everyone as much as we can prior to town meeting.
Correct.
So they're educated when they get to town meeting.
Yep, great idea.
And then just one other question, a tangent, because I don't think it has to do with our budget. We got an email today, or I got an email today about the Silver Lake E&D. That has nothing to do with our budget. That's strictly on the the Silver Lake Committee.
School side,
on their
correct.
side of things. Nothing comes in that will play on us.
No.
But it could factor into their budget decisions tonight, XYZ.
It probably
It could.
will.
Yeah.
That's their,
That's their free cash.
I figured as much, I just wanted to make sure nobody was looking at it.
So they did utilize that last year to supplement their budget, and I have no inclination if that's something they're going to look to do again this year. I know without that, they are looking at making some cuts again, so they are meeting tonight to decide that. Similar to what I've said to you, the administration has said to them that it's never a good idea to use one-time monies for an operating budget, unless it's a one-time cost. If something is going up this year as a one-time thing, and then next year we know there's a solution, well, that's a little bit different. But there's no answer, right, to it, other than you're creating a bigger problem for the future.
so do you expect to get a budget from them tomorrow or this week?
I do. I spoke with Sarah Hickey, their Director of Finance and Operations, today, and she had told me that they should be voting a budget tonight. So Halifax Elementary already voted their budget. Silver Lake should be voting their budget tonight, and then at that point she will put together, which I think is really great, total cost of education. So not only does it take into account our assessment for Silver Lake, our Halifax Elementary School budget, our excluded debt that we have over at Silver Lake, it puts that all into one figure, and you're comparing apples to apples rather than just pieces in comparison.
So,
yes.
my assumption is that whatever number they're going to come up with is not going to be happy for us, just assuming it's going to be over the top as far as what we think should be there, right? And I'm just wondering, like, just for talking purposes, assuming they come up with a budget tomorrow or tonight, and tomorrow we know what it is, and that means Kingston will know and Plimpton will know also. There's got to be some ability to negotiate that number, and I'm not sure how to do that. I don't think it works if we do that big meeting like we did last year where we had the whole hall full of town officials, right? That doesn't accomplish anything.
So I think,
Maybe the three administrators, I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I meet with Keith and Liz regularly. What I can say without knowing what they're going to do tonight is that Halifax is in the worst position of the three communities, not just because of our current financial state, but the increase that we are facing at Silver Lake is larger than any of the other
Yeah.
communities. And initially, we were led to believe that was because of enrollment. In speaking with the administration today, that is not the case. The reason for Halifax's much larger increase has to do with the Chapter 70 formula and the required contribution from each municipality, which takes into account a lot of factors that very few people in the state of Massachusetts fully understand the Chapter 70 formula. But if you go on the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's website, it gives you several criteria of how that is identified. And a few of the things that have resulted in Halifax's required contribution going up is our income, so the residents of Halifax's income significantly increased from the past fiscal year. And so the Department of Revenue, that's one of the pieces in their calculation. And then our equalized value, so take the total value of the town divided by per capita, you get your equalized value, significantly went up. The higher those are, the less beneficial it is to the municipalities.
Yeah.
And while many communities saw increases there, Halifax saw quite a large increase there. Jonathan and I actually were looking at it today, and so that's one of the reasons there. But about $400,000 of Halifax's increase at Silver Lake is attributable to that formula requirement. So right off the bat, we have to provide that funding on top of anything else. And that goes into the assessment calculation. So that's why Halifax is facing is in the worst situation of the three communities. Pair that with our current financial challenges, and it's challenging. So I think early figures were a 2% increase at Silver Lake. Take Silver Lake's budget from last year, increase it by 2%, was actually going to still result in a 5.8% increase for Halifax because of that required contribution increase. And it was a much smaller increase for Plimpton, I think less than 1%, and Kingston was in the 2 or 3%. So that's the challenge that unfortunately we're going to face because we're the minority, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Where the other two communities, we could be presented with a situation where the other two communities very well can afford something. It may even be a decrease, right? If they come up with a good number for Plimpton, let's say, but it could still be a large increase for Halifax given that. So we'll certainly try to work through it, but there may be less room for negotiation given that those communities may already be in a good spot and we may not be.
I would think, though, that they're also going to be objecting to the size, I'm just assuming, I don't know, but I'm assuming they'll be objecting to the size of the assessments and the budgets and so on. I mean,
They may, but if Plimpton's only presented with a 1% increase, I don't think they're going to push back.
They'll get too vocal.
And because I also look at it, if we were presented with a 1% increase, we would be saying, sounds good, guys.
That's great.
And Kingston, I know, could afford up to 4%. I have no clue what they're going to vote, but if it's under 4, I don't see Kingston putting too much of a fight because they can afford 4. They've made that known that 4% for them is okay.
okay. All right.
So just, if I can, Mr. Chair, just my concerns, kind of to echo what Cody says, if we get in a situation where Kingston and Plimpton don't need overrides this year, they're okay with the budget, we need one. So let's say even our contribution to Silver Lake is 0. We're still, at least tentatively at this juncture, so far away on our elementary school budget that we would need an override to match that. So my concern is, we're the only town this year that considers an override, right? And then what we're doing this year would lead to an override at the Silver Lake level, right? So if we had an override this year, it would most likely be based on the elementary school, right? The elementary school would be driving the override. We would be the only one that would consider it, possibly. So then next year, with any possible budgeting they're doing this year, could be a need for an override at the Silver Lake level driven by that budget. So we could be possibly looking at back-to-back overrides, if that makes sense. So that's my concern. And I know it's still, all the numbers are still up in the air, but I'm just concerned if as Cody says, we're the only town of the 3 that have to consider an override because of what might be coming next year as well.
Which just goes back to why it's very important to use your operating revenues for your operating costs and not one-time revenues
Correct.
for your annual costs, because you create fiscal cliffs. And if Silver Lake were to use one-time funds this year to basically band-aid it and push the problem off to next year, while that may get Kingston and Plimpton through, we're not getting through because of our
Because our
elementary school
elementary school.
situation. And it could put us in an even more challenging spot where we buy a year with Silver Lake this year, but we need an override for Halifax Elementary. And then next year we have this huge problem at Silver Lake because it wasn't addressed this year when we addressed our elementary school. And I did speak with the administration today and urge them to urge the school committee to not, put Band-Aids on things with one-time funds, because it's exactly that. You're just pushing off the inevitable. I mean, there's tough decisions that have to be made, but
We met with which school committee, the Silver Lake School Committee?
correct, yeah. But we will see. We'll keep you guys updated.
Okay.
And then just the MBTA update, I think there was some documentation received that we've shared and with the board. The state auditor has ruled in at least 2 municipalities that the MBTA zoning law is, in their review, an unfunded mandate. So, it's something we're reviewing. I've at least mentioned to council. My recommendation would be that we try to schedule an executive session with our town council and possibly discuss, what litigation options there are out there, if any. I don't know if the board had anything to add on that.
I think it's worthwhile. I mean, I don't know how this is all going to turn out, but, we do have to work every angle we can to make sure things get through. So, from what I gather from my weekend research, which I guess you had some also, surrounding towns are still giving this some thought. There aren't many of us, we're kind of a small number, but they, this letter from the auditor is a small ray of hope that maybe something could change, but we should be looking into it, I think. So.
Yeah, I did reach out to Middleborough just to try to pick their brain. I mean, they were the center of that auditor's letter, just to see how they approach things. But I think we need to get council involved and consider all options.
One of the other option too, and I had a conversation with Hanson, and it was just a conversation, so it wasn't, nothing came of it, but other than, I think Hanson might be interested, depending on what they're meeting tonight also, but depend on what they decide to do, that maybe some sort of a joint effort might be in the works, but that's so vague as far as like what that might be, right? So I don't really know, but this problem's not gonna just go away.
No.
And so we should probably be trying to figure out what options we have, if we have any, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea to keep all options on the table and pursue that. I would just add that in the limited research that I did, 6 of the 177 are non-compliant. I would just stress that there are at least that many, and probably multiples of that many, who are in paper compliance as we voted, who will not be in compliance once July hits. So I would anticipate that number of 6 being much different when the next deadline hits.
Oh, I agree with 100%.
Because I've spoken to people who voted, yeah, let's be in paper compliance, and they're not offering any other things.
Right, and I agree with you, I think a lot of those ones that say yes on the paper, on the plan compliance, but not yet on the other one,
Right.
the majority of them, I don't think are
And
going to.
I should just reiterate that, I don't know that they're not doing other things, but
Yeah.
I would anticipate that maybe the compliance doesn't come in a picture
I
by
think so
July.
too, and then if that's the case, then that just gives us a bigger pool of potential allies.
Strength in numbers.
The picture could change, but I think it's incumbent upon us to keep every avenue open and meet with council.
Okay.
We did also get the letter I forwarded to the board from the Secretary of the Department of Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities at Augustus, basically acknowledging our non-compliance as that February 13th deadline had passed. It effectively reminded us that this was a state law, and Attorney General Andrea Campbell had issued that advisory that you guys have all seen several times, basically claiming that it was not an option. And this letter was also sent to the Attorney General's office. So
I told you.
Cody, I want to kudos to you too, though, on that letter that you put together for the state, basically kind of outlining the process here in Halifax and how it was a well thought out process. There was nothing rushed to judgment on anything. We went through the whole process and did, I think, our due diligence. So I think it was good to be clear with the state that we went through the proper protocol. So I appreciate that.
I mentioned this to Cody the last time, and I don't know if we have an answer to this yet, but typically, once a zoning law is turned down, you can't bring it back for 2 years. So, I don't know, we may be in a even funnier position than a lot of places that never presented a zoning potential change, because we can't bring that, at least we can't bring that one back. Now, I don't know what else we have to work with, but.
Yeah, I spoke with counsel about that at a very high level. And basically, without digging too deep into it, his thought was if you were to have to bring something back, it would have to be different in some nature. So you're not supposed to bring back the same proposal if it's been voted down within a 2-year timeline. So, yeah, that certainly presents another kind of component.
So now we have some conflicting issues here,
Yeah.
right? The Attorney General may stomp her foot and say, you will do this, in which case, I'm not sure what the results that's gonna be, whether she's gonna go to court and the court's gonna tell us what to do, in which case, maybe they could tell us to do what we already voted down, I don't know. Or what, that's really, that remedy that she was seeking in the Milton lawsuit, just said, I want to be able to sue the towns. It doesn't say how it's going to impact the towns, right, or how it's going to work. So, you know, it could be, maybe the court appoints some sort of overseer to present something that has to be, we can't vote, we can't force people to vote for it.
Right. No, and it's a fluid situation. I know there are bills that have been filed that are being considered too that kind of alter the approach of the state with this. So maybe the rules of the game may change by the time we roll around in July. We'll
I
see.
can hope so.
Yeah.
Hope they do. Would make life a little easier for us.
I would note, we are non-compliance right now. We're not waiting until July.
No.
Town of Halifax is one of 6 that we are non-compliance now.
Correct.
So July doesn't matter to us as much
Sure.
as that February 13th mattered. And
Yep.
just as a note, you'll see it in the budget, but you know, we're trying to cut everywhere we can, but you will see an increase in our legal budget for next year because I do anticipate this is going to result in legal fees.
I think so.
So, you know, again, I just want to make you aware of that. While we're trying to be cognizant and cut everywhere else, there's some things such as this that we're going to have to increase, and you know, it's not going to be it's not a couple $1,000s we anticipate increasing this. So,
I mean, we had this discussion 100 times in public sessions, in town meeting. You know, this word has been out. Anybody who doesn't know it wasn't paying attention. So this is just likely to happen. So, okay. Anything else?
And no, just a notification from the Conservation Commission that they are having a public hearing tonight. Actually, no, I'm sorry. The meeting was postponed. They'll be issuing a new public hearing notice for this, but they will be having a public hearing in the future for 0 Montponce Street for a stormwater management permit.
Was that whole meeting postponed? They had 2 public hearings for tonight, right?
Yes, the meetings will have to be postponed. There was an error with the notification process, so new notice will be going out to everybody on the new dates.
Okay. Anything else to come before the board?
No.
Are you here for something special?
Just the MBTA stuff. I just had a question on that, but it's not.
On the MBTA?
Huh?
You got a question on the MBTA?
Yeah, it's for the radio, if I can get it.
He's with WATD.
Yeah, I figured that. I saw the hat. You're the only one in the room here, so if you have anything you want to ask us, go right
I always
ahead.
left the meeting adjourned, so I'm good.
You all good? Okay.
We lost somebody too, Cody, right?
Oh, yes, yes, thank you for reminding me. We did lose our gas and plumbing inspector, Jack O'Leary.
O'Brien.
I'm sorry, jeez.
O'Brien.
O'Brien.
Former
Yes.
inspector. Former inspector?
No, he was still working for us.
Was
He passed away unexpectedly So condolences to his family.
Was that-
He-
The son from O'Brien's
No.
Orchard, or was that Mr. O'Brien? Is he-
I believe it was
It was
Mr. O'Brien.
yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize he was that young. I thought he was older.
Yeah, so,
No, that's a shame.
yeah, condolences to his family.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Any questions? I mean, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? It's unanimous.